How do we deal with a sense of meaninglessness in life? We'll talk about it. Yesterday I was out making calls and I was early to one, so I stopped over at the Starbucks, got a cup of coffee, and was sitting outside checking email. And a guy came up who looked like he was open for conversation. And so I asked him one of the questions I normally will ask to strangers to start theological conversations. I said, if you have one question to ask of God, what would you ask? And he thought about it for a little while, which I think indicates that he's a Christian. I've noticed that when you ask a Christian that question, they have to think about it. If you ask that to an unbeliever, they know right away, which is interesting. I mean, that tells you a lot about the shape of someone's conscience and so forth, but that's for another video. So this guy, Jordan, said, I think the thing that I'm thinking about is how life, things seem the same. Yesterday was just like the day before, and the day before was just like the day before. I've been in the same job for years and years. I don't know if my life has a lot of meaning. Now, so what's the meaning of it all? And I was thinking about that and it's not an uncommon thing to hear that people wrestle with meaninglessness. And I'm interested in why. I mean, what is the source of that, and how do we get around it? I think one of the things is that we don't know where we came from, and we don't know where we're going, and we don't know the purpose for which we were created. This leads to this profound sense of meaninglessness. Now, I was getting ready for bed last night, and this book, Building a Bridge to the 18th Century, this old Neil Postman book, was there on my nightstand, and I hadn't been reading it much, but I picked it up, and he brought up this same point. He says, he says to the poets to give expression to this sense of meaninglessness. So I'll read you a little bit here. He says, Yeats, for example, gives us a precise description of our wayward academics and our overcommitted alienities. He says, the former lack all conviction, the latter are full of passionate intensity. T.S. Eliot, you will remember, wrote of the hollow men occupying a wasteland. Auden wrote of the age of anxiety. Vachel Lindsay wrote of leaden-eyed people who have no gods to serve. Edna St. Vincent Millay, in her book Huntsman, What Quarry, wrote a poem which goes to the root of the problem. Here's an excerpt. Upon this gifted age, in its dark hour, rains from the sky a meteoric shower of facts. They lie unquestioned, uncombined. Wisdom enough to leach us of our ill is daily spun, but there exists no loom to weave it into fabric. That's something. No loom to weave. Peterson continues. Postman continues. No loom to weave facts into fabric, people with no gods to serve, hollow and anxious, distrusting language, uncertain about even the most obvious features of reality, lacking conviction, suspicious of truth. He goes on to say, nothing can be clearer than that we require a story to explain to ourselves why we are here and what our future will be. And many other things, including where authority resides. So the question of where we came from and where we're going is, if we don't have answers to those questions, it makes us empty, hollow men, lacking conviction. It reminds me of the critique that Martin Luther gave in his anthropological theses, where he says that Aristotle's definition of man as rational animal lacks two major features. It doesn't know where man came from, and it doesn't know where man is going. It doesn't understand creation in the image of God and the fall, and it doesn't understand the resurrection, and so it can't speak fully. And I don't wonder if that lack of understanding, that we are created in God's image, that we're fallen, that we're redeemed, and that we're headed for the resurrection, the new heavens and the new earth, where the righteous will dwell, if that leads to this sense of emptiness and hollowness, like our lives are kind of empty cups. One day is just like the next. So what's the solution to the sense of meaninglessness? Well, in one way, it's theology. We shouldn't be surprised. It's God's word which informs us of who we are and who God is. As I left the Starbucks yesterday, I went to visit Chris, and we were talking about in the nursing home, and we were talking about this conversation. And it occurred to Chris and I, as we were thinking about life and the meaning of life, that we had everything we needed in this cup. We were about to take communion together. And this cup there was really the meaning of life. This cup told us who we are, that we are sinners who need God's redemption. And this cup tells us who God is. He is the God who has flesh and blood, who spent his life to save us and who still comes to us to save us. So meaninglessness is found in the cup. Meaningfulness is found by switching ourselves from the subject of the sentence to the object of the sentence. We always want to say, my life will be whatever. But we find meaning when God comes to us and says, I am your God, and I am your Redeemer. I'm the one who loves you and who gives his life, who gives everything for you. So a few thoughts. I think this is only the beginning, but a few thoughts on this idea of the sense that our lives have no meaning and how the Lord addresses that problem. Not by giving us meaning, but by giving us the body and the blood and giving us the forgiveness of sins, giving us promises, and that a sense of meaning will flow out of these. Anyway, a few thoughts for the morning. Every Wednesday, I send out the Wednesday Whatnot, this free email, and today's version will have two versions of T.S. Eliot's Hollow Man. I mean, there's the same poem. One is read by T.S. Eliot and one is read by some other actor. I think it's so interesting to hear this poem read by the author and then read by someone else. That the someone else probably reads it better in a more engaging sort of way. But T.S. Eliot, especially the way that the poem ends. Remember that line in The Hollow Man? This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper. I mean, some of the most dramatic words probably ever written. And to hear how T.S. Eliot thought that they should be read, I still can't get over it. So if you're interested in that, you can go over to follow the link and you can sign up for the Wednesday Whatnot and keep in touch with stuff. And thanks guys for listening, for subscribing, and for enduring my allergetic voice. I kind of like it. My voice is low enough that I could read poetry. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Maybe I'll do that next. All right. See you guys soon.